I worked hard for 7 years to save up money, but my mother gave it to my cousin as a study abroad fund. Not only did he lose his chance to take the postgraduate entrance examination, but he was even forced to marry the lazy daughter of a landlord. At this moment, the daughter is coughing up blood after accidentally eating mustard, but the whole family tried to stop us from calling an ambulance just because they were afraid of ruining my cousin's rich life. When I went home for the holidays, my mother suddenly dropped a bombshell. My cousin wanted to use my savings to study abroad. I threatened to commit suicide, but my parents were indifferent and directly handed my bank card to my aunt. 3 years later, my cousin returned home in glory and married the daughter of the richest man in Alberta and achieved success in both career and love. As for me, because my parents ruined my chances, my postgraduate entrance examination and civil service were all ruined, and I was forced to marry the woman arranged by my aunt. Now, I can only repeat the hard and dirty life of my parents. On the anniversary of my death, I went home to visit the graves and heard my mother crying in front of my grandfather's grave. Dad, don't worry, I took good care of my sister and lived up to your expectations. I quietly climbed up the hillside and saw my parents kneeling in front of the grave, scattering flowers. My mother was still muttering, Dad, you asked me to be kind and patient and take good care of my sister, and I did it. Her son Mateo returned from studying abroad, has a good job, and married a rich wife. They are a perfect match. Mateo is living a happy life. Dad helped Mom prepare the offerings and said to Grandpa's tombstone, Dad, as your son-in-law, please pray for our family and Santiago. Mom snorted impatiently, don't mention that useless guy. Look at Mateo, and look at him, so shameful. He can't even pass the civil service exam, let alone graduate school. Fortunately, Mateo had the courage to go abroad and marry a rich man. Look at him again, his face is full of resentment, so unlucky. Dad smiled and comforted her. Don't be angry, Dad is watching. But the mother refused to give in. If I hadn't paid for Mateo's education, how could he have been so successful? He was born to be rich, and my choice was right. The father sighed, you can't blame everything on Santiago. You used his money to send Mateo abroad, and he still hasn't recovered. The mother retorted, can we let Mateo suffer? He is my sister's only son. I have heard these words countless times, and every word is like a knife piercing my heart. I thought I was numb, but it still hurts. The pain is almost unbearable, because the person who was supposed to go abroad is me. At that time, my mother took the bank card from me and handed it to my aunt. That was the money I had saved from scholarships and part-time jobs since I was a child, and I was going to use it to pay for my graduate school tuition. But my mother lied to me and gave all the money to my aunt. My mom always favored my cousin Mateo, and I knew it from childhood. Even though she gave the money to my aunt, my dad reluctantly agreed. What was I to this family? Just a stepping stone for Mateo? To my mom, I was nothing more than a stupid, easily manipulated fool. I was her son, her flesh and blood, but she always chose others over me. All they left me with was wounds. I didn't look at the road and my foot slipped. The hillside was slippery and overgrown with weeds. I climbed up the hill secretly, but accidentally fell down the hillside. Show up. The voice was loud and scared them. When my mother saw me, her face turned black and she immediately scolded me. You useless thing. I told you not to come, but you still came. I struggled to stand up. My arms were bruised and bleeding. My face was scratched. I put a large basket of paper flowers on the ground, each of which I had made myself. But my mother looked at them with disgust and said, take it away. My father doesn't need your offering. Mateo has already burned his offering. Take it away. She kicked over the paper flowers I had made. The mountain was strangely quiet. I wiped the blood off my arm with the corner of my sleeve, squatted down, and picked up paper flowers one by one from the mud. At least I got down the mountain before sunset, because today is the Day of the Dead, and our family has a tradition of gathering in the old house for dinner. As soon as I stepped into the yard, my mother poked her head out and yelled, you little bastard. What took you so long to come back? The whole family is waiting for you. Where's your dignity as a man? I looked inside. My aunt was sitting in the living room with Mateo and his fiancée. My parents were around them, eagerly handing them snacks and fruits, chatting with smiles on their faces. Meanwhile, my wife, Tia Perez, was lounging on the couch, engrossed in her phone. A chess game played over the speakers, and she absent-mindedly nudged her daughter's walker with her knee. When she saw me, her little face scrunched up, her little lips trembled, and her eyes were filled with tears, looking aggrieved. I endured the pain from my wounds, walked over, gently picked her up, and rocked her in my arms. Looking at the lively and cheerful scene around me, and then looking at my crying daughter in my arms, I felt a surge of regret and sadness in my heart. No, we are not even as good as outsiders. When Mateo saw me, he smiled, pulled his fiancée closer, pointed in my direction, and said sarcastically, wow, look at my cousin. He treats his daughter like a precious little princess. So exquisite. My aunt laughed out loud. My mother bent down and held the armrest of the sofa tightly. Isn't that the truth? He dotes on her like she's made of glass. I can't even scold her as a grandmother, or he'll fly into a rage. Mom, I finally said, my voice firm. She's just a child. It wouldn't hurt to let her grandmother take care of her. Tia glared at me, her big eyes with green eyeshadow flashing with impatience. She cursed, enough. A grown man still nagging like this? Go cook. I'm starving. A strong resentment surged in my heart, but I had nowhere to vent. I quietly tied my daughter's walker to the kitchen door and started preparing the food. My skin was sore from the fall, and I hadn't even had a sip of water after climbing all day. The words my parents said on the mountain echoed in my mind, making my heart ache even more. My heart was getting sadder and sadder. This house felt more like a cold, lifeless prison to me. These people were supposed to be the closest people to me, yet the only person they smiled at was Mateo. I gritted my teeth and prepared food. Is this really the life I want? Mateo's laughter erupting in the living room brought me back to the past. When Mateo was a child, my mother always doted on him. At that time, we lived with my aunt at my grandparents' house. Mateo developed late and was shorter and skinny than his peers. My aunt was always worried about his nutrition and often fed him vitamin supplements. As a result, Mateo grew up to be a short, chubby, dark-skinned child. Because his feet were wide and thick, his shoes and clothes often couldn't fit him. However, instead of being thrown away, they were passed down to me. Since my mom never bought me new shoes, I always wore Mateo's old shoes. They were either too loose or too tight. Every morning before school, I would stuff a ball of paper in my socks to prevent the heels from sliding out. That way no one would laugh at me. Whenever I saw other kids playing basketball, I envied them and wanted to join them. But how could I join them when I didn't even have a pair of decent shoes? Mom would laugh at me. She She said I was dressed carelessly and looked unkempt. She said I had no confidence and didn't act like a man. She said I wasn't as bold or manly as Mateo. However, Mom always forgot that whenever Mateo needed a new outfit or a pair of decent shoes, it was Auntie who begged her for the money, yet when it came to me, she would always say, I don't have money. My aunt never worked. Whenever she was short of money, she would go directly to my mom. Not only that, she sent Mateo to live with us and taught him how to take my things and how to ask me for pocket money. When I was little, I had no concept of money. Also, my mom always whispered to me and my dad about how hard life was for my aunt's family. As time went by, I started to believe it. After all, we were a family. We lived under the same roof. So, it wouldn't be a big deal to help them, right? Everything changed when she lied to me. She told me that the bank was pressuring us to pay back our mortgage and that we were deeply in debt. She begged me to take out my savings to help my family out of this emergency. When I finally gave her all the money I had, she turned around and gave all the money to my aunt. She did this so that my cousin Mateo could have money to study abroad. At that moment, a light bulb suddenly flashed in my mind. I felt so wrong that I almost knelt down to ask my mother for an explanation. She just sighed and said, Mateo wants to go abroad. You should let him go. She added, your grandfather's last wish is for me to take good care of my sister. Can you understand me? You know that your aunt's life is difficult. Besides, Mateo is always more capable than you. He will become a more successful person. Why are you so jealous? She added. Although I cried and begged them, and even refused to eat, I only got ridicule. That account contained every scholarship I received since high school, and every penny I earned from working since high school. That was my capital for studying abroad, a total of $37,500. Why are you still standing there in a daze? Your brother and his fiancée are almost starving to death. She stood at the kitchen door, urging me impatiently, take out everything. Your brother and his fiancée are weak. They need to eat first. They can't starve. She looked very worried about their safety. I cooked 16 dishes and served them. However, when I served the last dish, there were only some scraps left. Some garlic, chili peppers, and a little vegetable broth. So I searched through the scraps, looking for something to eat. However, there was nothing left. I thought, forget it. It has always been like this. It was like this in the past, and it is like this now. After dinner, the mother held Mateo's girlfriend's hand and kept praising her for her beauty and elegance, saying that they were a perfect match. Oh my god, Mateo, you have such good taste. Your girlfriend is so elegant and beautiful. You two are a perfect match. You are a perfect match. Good, good. You did better than your cousin. Mateo's fiancée blushed and said shyly, Auntie, don't be like this. You make me shy. It's all because of Mateo's talent. He shined in the lecture and we met. If he hadn't been so outstanding, I would definitely not have the opportunity to date such an outstanding man. Mateo, who was sitting next to her, held her hand tightly with a smile on his face. I'm really lucky. Sometimes I feel that I am not worthy of my little princess. They sat on the couch. Normally, he would slouch on the couch, but right now, he was sitting straighter than I'd ever seen him before, his back straight and his face full of pride. Tia, who was sitting across the room, was giggling, her eyes glued to her phone. I turned to look at her. I had been a top student my whole life. I was accepted into the University of Albertine and planned to build my future in the city of Albertine. However, I ended up marrying Tia, the daughter of a local landowner who lived off rent. I should never have married her that year. After my dream of studying abroad was shattered, I did not give up because I shifted my focus to the civil service exam. However, after the background check results came out, someone deliberately reported me. The gossips from the neighbors spread like wildfire, and then my mother forced me to kneel in front of my grandfather's grave. She said, you swear to me that you will never take the postgraduate entrance exam or the civil service exam again, and never do anything that will embarrass me again. I secretly rented a house and studied hard for my postgraduate entrance exams, but when she found out, she burned all my study materials and nearly burned down the entire apartment. My girlfriend of 4 years broke up with me after she met my family. Before my aunt arranged an ideal marriage for me, she convinced my mother. I asked someone to tell my fortune. Your son is destined to work hard all his life. My son is destined to be successful. He should marry and farm like a good and honest person. This is his destiny. While I was away, they paid the betrothal gift without my knowledge. That night, my mother prepared a big meal and cooked it herself, something she had never done before. She also drank with me and swore, if you listen to me, I will ask your father to find you a good job and even pay for your wedding. I was so naive that I actually believed her. I thought she had finally gotten rid of my aunt's manipulation. I didn't expect that she would actually seduce me personally and set a trap to keep me in the cage forever. The next morning, I woke up with a terrible headache and found a woman lying next to me. She threatened me, take responsibility or I will call the police. Later I found out that her name was Tia. Suddenly, there was a commotion at the table. Oh, oops, Sophia. The daughter coughed violently, her face flushed, and she lay at her aunt's feet, gasping for breath. The aunt scolded, this little girl is too fragile. She can't even stand a little prank. It's just a little mustard. Why are you exaggerating so much? I rushed forward and held my daughter in my arms. She was choking and sobbing. I frantically looked for water on the table, but there was nothing but wine. Aunt, she is only a little over 1 year old. How can you let a little child eat mustard? You are her aunt. You treat a child like this. Don't you have a conscience? I roared. A loud slap hit my face. Snap. My mother was furious and shouted, how dare you talk to your aunt like that? I was so worried that I almost didn't feel the sting. I said without hesitation, she's only 1 year old. What if she choked? If this is not cruel, what is cruel? That's enough. Your aunt only comes to the old house a few times a year, and you and your daughter have ruined everything. How many times have I told you to respect your aunt? Don't embarrass me again. Mom yelled. I was so angry that I yelled at her. Mom, she is your sister, not my sister. It is your responsibility to take care of her, not mine. Grandpa asked you to take care of her. What does it have to do with me? Haven't they ruined my life enough? In my arms, my daughter's cry gradually weakened. My heart sank. I couldn't think of anything. I just wanted to go to the kitchen to rinse her mouth. My mother was furious and swung her arms to hit me, cursing as she hit me. Ungrateful son, I will beat you to death. I won't let you bully me. Mateo stepped forward, pulled my mother hypocritically, and coaxed her. Auntie, please let him go. You know my cousin is narrow-minded. Don't be angry. When my mother saw Mateo chasing after me, her face changed immediately, and she said softly, my dear child, you are the only one who is respectful. I won't be angry anymore. It's meaningless. She turned her head, glared at me fiercely, and retorted, retorted, "You and your cousin are incomparable. You two are so different. How could I give birth to a waste like you?" Mateo helped his mother back to the dining table and sat down as if nothing had happened. My daughter was lying in my arms, and suddenly her head was shaking up and down. I felt something was wrong. I looked down and saw a small piece of blood on her clothes. I shouted to Tia, "Blood! Tia, our daughter is coughing up blood." My daughter's brows were furrowed, her eyes were closed, and she only held my clothes tightly with her little hands, enduring the pain with difficulty. I turned to face everyone and threatened my aunt. "Aunt, if anything happens to my daughter again today, I will never let you go. Tia, let's go to the hospital." Tia, who was sitting at the other end of the table, was stunned for a moment when she saw the blood on my clothes. Then she took immediate action and ran towards me. I picked up my daughter and ran out. "Hurry up and drive. We're going to the hospital right away." I rushed to the car in a panic. As soon as I opened the door, my mother rushed forward, grabbed the car window tightly, and said, "She's drunk. She can't drive. She's drunk." I was so anxious that my teeth were chattering. I turned my head and yelled at Tia, "You're drunk? How can you drink? What about the child?" At this time, Tia's face was completely red like she had drunk alcohol, which made me furious. "Why are you yelling at me? How did I know this would happen? If I knew, I wouldn't drink anything," she yelled. At that time, my mother never let me take any exams. Once she noticed that I was preparing for an exam, she would do everything to stop me. And now, I am in my 30s and don't even have a driver's license. However, we were in the middle of nowhere and I certainly couldn't get a taxi. Who wasn't drinking? It was the Day of the Dead, after all. Who could drive without drinking? It was Mateo. Mateo drove his new car here today just to show off in front of me. He certainly couldn't resist showing off when I was at home, which meant he definitely wasn't drinking. I stuffed my daughter into Tia's arms and rushed back to the restaurant. Mateo was holding his girlfriend, pampering her like a child. When he saw me rushing in, he barely glanced at me and quickly looked away. I knew he wouldn't easily agree to help me, so I pleaded, "Mateo, can you drive me to the hospital?" He frowned. "Can't you go by yourself? I have to take my girlfriend home later. Her family is very strict and we can't be late." He knew I didn't have a driver's license. I clenched my hands in front of me. As long as I could save my daughter, my self-esteem was meaningless. "I don't have a driver's license. You haven't drunk alcohol. Please, I beg you, please, just this once. Help me, okay?" However, before Mateo could respond, my aunt stepped between us, blocking my way. "Santiago," she said, patting my shoulder as if to comfort me. "It's not that Mateo doesn't want to help you. You know how important his girlfriend's family is. If something happens because of his lateness, who will be responsible? We have to think ahead and avoid trouble as much as possible, right?" she asked. My daughter's condition was getting worse and worse, and I felt like I was going crazy. I pleaded with Mateo one last time. "Mateo, please. I'll find someone to take your girlfriend home. Your niece, she's been coughing up blood. Just this once. Please, have some generosity." Mateo just stood there, leaning lazily on the edge of the table. "It doesn't work for me. If she's not mine, why should I care?" Next to him, his girlfriend Camila handed him a glass of wine. Mateo took it and drank it all. He did it in front of me. It was a deliberate mockery. My heart was broken. I was exactly like this family. I knew my cousin and aunt had never been kind to me, so I could only look to my mom as my last hope. My mother was a nurse at the county hospital when she was young. She must have the contact information of the county hospital. "Mom, call the hospital. You must have their phone number. Ask them to send an ambulance." She stared at the blood on my shirt for half a minute. Finally, she took out her cell phone. That night, I felt a little relieved for the first time. At least my daughter was saved. However, a hand snatched the phone from my mother's hand in an instant. It was my aunt. At that moment, a chill ran down my spine. My aunt locked the screen, waved her hand, and scolded my mother. "Sister, it's not that I don't allow you, but you called 911 on the Day of the Dead and talked nonsense?" Her eyes were fixed on me, glaring at me. My body trembled involuntarily, and my teeth chattered because of nervousness. Besides, she continued, "Do you know what day it is today? Do you know what Mateo's fate is? What if the ambulance comes to the house and brings all the bad luck in the hospital? What if this ruins his future?" Everyone was stunned. The aunt's superstitious words successfully frightened them, and they dared not do anything else. My aunt smiled smugly. She always smiled that same smile after she convinced my mom to do something for my own good. She'd ruined my life, but I wasn't going to let her ruin my daughter's life. Absolutely not. While she was still gloating, I rushed forward, snatched the phone from her hand, and immediately called the county hospital. Behind me, my aunt was roaring, beating my back with her fists, and cursing me over and over again. I just ignored her.